Welcome to Zen and the Art of Homeschooling. I'm Ollie Malley.
And I'm Michael Malley.
And this is our second episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying this out.
Number two.
Number two. And so today we wanted to talk about how homeschooling doesn't have to look like school. Because I know people are getting nervous out there from what we've seen.
Sure.
And a lot of people, there's so many kids at home all over the globe right now. And you guys, or many of you that are watching this, weren't thinking about homeschooling.
No, you weren't thinking of that a week ago, were you?
Right.
Uh-oh.
And Michael and I have been thinking a lot about homeschooling. We come from it as a couple educators, a couple former teachers.
Right. So part of our deal is, for example, our oldest son, who's a sophomore in college, who came home early. Many of you have that's happened. We homeschooled him from kindergarten through 12th grade. And right at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Right at the beginning, because we were former classroom teachers, we kind of thought we need to make it look like a classroom. We need to make sure we're covering X, Y, and Z every day.
I even bought a big chalkboard. Do you remember that?
We did. We had
it was cool.
It was cool. We had it for a long time. I actually liked it. It was fun.
It was nice. But you don't need a chalkboard.
No, it was just fun. And most of our other friends that hadn't been teachers didn't have those kind of things.
Right.
And it was just fine.
Yeah, and even some of our friends who've been homeschooling for years, they sometimes look at us as like, oh, you guys are educators, you know all about this. It's like, we had to unlearn a lot of, if you got 25 kids in a room and you've got discipline issues and it's a completely different world than when you're homeschooling. Yeah.
Right. And there are complexities with homeschooling because you're going to have all sorts of parent-child relationship issues that are going to come up that don't come up when you're in school. There's other issues in school with discipline, but there will be discipline and other issues at home because you just have that dynamic that is there that you're going to have to work through. Also, we talked yesterday, though, whether your kid is at home or at school, we feel like you really are your kid's number one teacher.
Yeah, you've heard that. It probably sounds cliche.
Right.
You've heard teachers and principals say that probably over the years. Oh, you're the number one teacher. It's true. You are the teacher. And again, we're thinking in that broad scope, right? That you might be the one who's taught your child how to read or is teaching your child how to read. But also just the conversations at the dinner table, the help with homework that you've done, but not just that kind of stuff, the values you're instilling in your children, the sense of what matters, the sense of what is important, and also having a vision of who do we hope our children to be. We don't have complete control over that. None of us do, that's for sure, but we have an important role to play. As parents, we are the educators.
Yeah. And the first thing I think we're going to think of when why homeschool doesn't have to look like school is that you're going to spend a lot less time doing kind of that formal schooling.
Right.
Reading, writing, spelling, math, science. Because one, in the school day, there's a lot of time spent getting to school, getting home from school, lunch, switching between topics with 25 kids and getting them all reorganized and settled. Yeah. So you're not going to have any of that. So that goes out.
If you were thinking like, oh, we better start at 8:15 and finish at 3:15, no, don't do that.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to do that. I'm thinking of actually, like when I was in high school, I played high school football. And if you actually look at the amount of time that you have for the plays in a game, that's a very short amount of time compared to huddling up after the whistle is blown, lining up. It's kind of, sad to say maybe, I don't know, but that's just kind of the nature of school. There's a lot of stuff that goes on where kids are not really learning. So yeah, you want some focused learning time, but you don't need 6 hours of focused learning. Trust me. Yeah.
Right. And so it's also going to look different depending on how old your kid is. So you have a early elementary, middle school, high school kids. Yeah. It's going to look very different. And early elementary, it can be very relaxed, and school can look like sitting on the couch and reading to your kid. It can look like cooking together, and a lot of play is going to be school and doing games together, and that all is very, very valuable part of your school day, but it might not look like school.
And the other thing is that the kids working together, if you have more than one kid, right? If you have siblings and they're at different ages, as we are up here talking right now, our college-age son is helping his little brother in 7th grade with his math. He's giving him a math lesson right now. So again, you can have the kiddos working together and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. And so then if you're thinking about ages, so early elementary and then elementary and middle school, you usually have a little bit more school to your day, depending on how you decide to do it. And then by high school, there's even more. And so you're just going to see, one, you're going to see what the school district gives you, because there's going to be some online things that they're going to be doing and how you're going to interact with that, and decide how much you want to interact with that. If it feels good to your kids. The other thing is every kid is going to be different. And some kids it's going to be very reassuring if they have some online things that they're doing and they're making sure they're getting things done.
Right, they're going to appreciate that structure. Some kiddos will.
Some kids will, and some kids are going to be really frustrated with
resistant,
it, and very resistant. And so your job is going to be to figure out the balance in that, and how much to push and how much to say, we're going to ease into this, and we don't have to do everything at once.
Right. The other thing that we should all be keeping in mind, and I think we mentioned this yesterday as well, is that with this coronavirus and with this pandemic, everybody's stressed out. Your younger kids, maybe they're confused. Why aren't we in school? I don't understand. Is everybody going to get sick? And the older kids, if they're like ours, frustrated, they can't get together with their buddies, with their friends, all of these things. There's going to be a lot of that kind of tension too. So allow for that, right? Know that everybody's going to need some space. You are. You're stressed out. We're dealing with it. We have mindfulness practices we do. You can check out our other program, Sacred Ground, Watering Beneficial Seeds. There's things we can do to take care of ourselves, but there's going to be stress on all of us. And so, again, that's another, if everything was completely normal and we were talking to a homeschool parent, we'd say ease into it. Under these circumstances, yes, ease in. Yeah. Right.
And we kind of said yesterday that we want to do things one day at a time.
Right. We're getting new information every day. So put that into the mix. At the same time, what I would say is I recommend that we don't just kind of let's not do anything. I think a little bit of that structure, a little bit of expectations for kids on a daily basis is going to help them. That's my opinion in terms of some sense of normalcy, if you will. Obviously, it's not normal because most of you weren't homeschooling 2 weeks ago. But, I have to work on, we're going to read together, or we're going to have this expectation of math, or we're going to have these expectations with chores. We're going to have some expectations out there and kind of creating an environment, a safe environment, some playfulness and joy too, right? And all of that. Yeah.
Right. So, all those different routines. I mean, trying to think about, is there going to be structure to when they're getting up, when they're going to sleep, when you're eating? Are you guys going to be eating together all 3 meals or just 1 or 2 meals? How much time are they going to be on media? Right. And one of the things we've recommended this to parents for years, especially if you have a couple kids at home, is having a quiet time each day. A time, we talked about that time being separate, but a quiet time each day. And we did it so what happened was years ago when we had one child who's taking naps and then another child who'd outgrown naps. And we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Right. And we said, we're going to have quiet time. And that 4-year-old who wasn't taking nap when his 2-year-old sister was sleeping, it took a little bit of effort to get that going, but after we got it going, our kids love quiet time. Our grandkids still do it and love quiet time. So it's a time when they are focused, get to pick some activities that they want to do. They're in a separate space even in one room. We've done it here. We've done camps at our house where we have 15 kids here. And
still have quiet time.
And still have quiet time. Our daughter actually runs, and our son has done too, summer camps at our house. And there'll be quiet time, so kids will just be in different spaces. And even those kids really enjoy it for like an hour.
Right. Well, and I would say though, and you could correct me on this, but we started it out where you start out with a small quiet time. Right? We worked up to an hour after a time, but you might want to start with, this is again, if you have like a kindergarten, first, second, third grader, hey, we're going to have 15, 20 minutes, just quiet time where, you're not going to talk to mom or dad or whoever else is at home or your siblings. You just go, you can read, you can write if you want, you can draw. There's no rules about it. No electronic devices, no social media, because if they're sitting there, playing a video game, I wouldn't call that quiet time. This is a place to get settled, because that's part of what we need in terms of right now too, is we need a little bit of getting settled. And if you started at 15 minutes, then you can up it to 18 minutes, then to 20 minutes, and you'll see what kind of works for your kiddos. You can do something similar with older kiddos, where you can say, hey, we're all just going to get a little break from each other. And everybody can have their own space and allow for that. That's one of the things that I'm realizing, just with this coronavirus, that, my children, shockingly enough, don't want to be around me all the time. I don't understand. Anyway, so of course they don't. So, giving them some space, but not just space to go and click on and be on the video or be watching YouTube or binge watching some show, but some space for themselves. Could be journaling. It could be reading a book that they want. But creating a little space, and guess what? Do that for yourself as well. Right. When I was in the classroom, so there are some applicable things. When I was in the classroom, we would have a drop everything and read. That was DEAR. And the kids would all read. And there's such a temptation for the teacher, and especially pressures on educators, to be grading papers at that time or whatever. But I would stop and I would read a book at that time. We talked the other day about what you model. Did the kids ever see somebody reading a book? Fine, it might be a novel, it might be a spiritual book, it might be, it might be whatever you would want to read. You reading at the same time as them and creating that calm space. Kind of maybe enough light for everybody to read, but maybe not too much bright overhead fluorescent lighting, and just everybody ease in. With younger ones, you can, of course, be reading with them, and we'll be talking more about this stuff too.
Yeah, and it just reminded me, we had a friend whose child went to school for kindergarten, first and second grade. And when she brought him back home, she was realizing, and then she homeschooled him then, and then he went to high school. So she homeschooled him from third grade through eighth grade. And what she realized when she brought him back home is that he needed a lot of quiet time. That that he had a lot of quiet time when he was younger. And when he went to school, he wasn't getting that. And that was part of some of the issues they were having with behavior issues with him. And he came home and he was very focused and just needed a lot of time on his own. So some kids actually need more, more of that alone time. And some kids might do well with it at first, really quickly. Yeah.
And Ollie, you're reminding me of something here, because obviously, oh my gosh, challenges. How am I going to do this? How's this all going to work? And, again, this is going to unfold over the days, over the weeks ahead. But there are going to be some things that are going to be wonderful, that are actually going to be better than they were before with this, and sort of be open to that, be aware of that. So that's going to be part of what happens as well.
Right. Yeah. And so we've said this a couple times, but we do want each of us not just to take it one day at a time, because we don't know what the information is, but one day at a time, that see what works tomorrow. Say, we're going to put these routines in place tomorrow, and see how they work. And maybe they work great, or maybe it's a disaster. and that's fine, because then you have the next day and you can think about, we're going to tweak things a little bit, and we're going to do it like this. If it works out all right, you might want to try it for a few days or a week to see if it works out. But really understand that it's okay to change things and to change your mind and do things differently.
Yeah, and I think that tweak is a good idea. Like, don't abandon something if you try it once and it hasn't worked. But like, okay, can we just move that a little bit and change that a little bit and see if it works?
Yeah. And something that works one day might not work the next. Again, we're all well, that's just how we all are. We're all emotional and are feeling a lot of things right now. Okay. Once again, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, homeschool does not have to look like the regular classroom in terms of the time, the number of hours, the exact ways you're doing things. Yes, you're going to be getting information probably from the school systems in terms of how to do things, but you are the educators. Nobody does it perfectly. Have fun.
Have fun. Please have fun. Because it is so much fun.
Yeah.
Cooking with your kids or oh my gosh, all the amazing books we've read with our kids. Yeah. It is a lot of fun. Yeah. It also, definitely is not perfect and not all days go wonderfully. Mm-hmm. We want you to also just ease into it. Yeah.
Try a little bit of routine. Be willing to move it a little bit to see how it's working, and take it one day at a time.
Yeah. One day at a time. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.